The story starts in a game named Asra. Hyun was the rank 1 player of the game, which was notorious for its difficulty. The time has come for Asra to be discontinued and a new game called Asrian emerged. It shared a similarity with Asra, hence, Hyun researched everything that concerned the mystery of Asra until the launch day of Asrian. From here and forth, his new adventure will begin. As Hyun entered the game, he spawned inside what looked like a church. Suddenly, an angel appeared and greeted Hyun for his arrival. She called herself Keidrial, the one who would guide him throughout the ceremony. But Hyun recognized her with another name, Keidrial. As soon as Hyun uttered the name, her innocent smile vanished and her appearance changed. Now, she fully revealed her proper form, Keidrial, the great demon. Her aura and presence were so powerful that Hyun was shaking uncontrollably. But Keidrial was there to guide players in choosing their initial jobs and not to fight them, so she held her anger and proceeded with the ceremony. Around Hyun, weapons of the respective class appeared, namely, sword, dagger, wand, and cross. These were the weapons of a warrior, a rogue, a magician, and a priest, respectively. But Hyun felt something was amiss and thought that there could be more besides these standard classes. When Hyun looked around, he saw a carpet that was sticking out from underneath the wall. He thought that it was strange, and in Asra, there's no such thing as coincidence. Hyun tried to look at the carpet closely, but Keidrial stopped him. She then reminded Hyun that what he was supposed to be doing was picking his class and not dolling around. Hyun was taken aback for a moment, but then he saw Keidrial's panicked face. Demons rarely panic, so there must be something that she doesn't want Hyun to know. Hyun disregarded her reminder and told her that there was no time limit, hence he would take his sweet time. He continued walking up to the wall, and when he stepped on the carpet, the wall crumbled in bright light. The system then informed Hyun that he found a hidden space and that the number of jobs he could choose from had increased. When Hyun finally saw what was behind the wall, his suspicion was answered. Asrian only gave 1 character slot per account, which was unusual. But with this new job in front of him, once news about these comes to light, players will definitely pay for 1 more character slot. Well, that was what you call business. Hyun inspected the weapons displayed and he was sure they were for hidden classes. But if there was one surprise, there must be a second, right? Hyun looked at the direction Keidrial was sitting on. He told her that he felt a tremendous aura from behind her seat. Keidrial started panicking again, which cemented Hyun's will to check what was behind. When he did so, Hyun was presented with an unusual sword. He had never seen such an item while he was playing Asra. But looking at it, he felt that it was something incredible, so he reached out to it. But his greed for power muddled his knowledge of Keidrial's tendencies. She is a demon who deceives humans and eats their despair. After choosing the unknown sword, a system notification informed him of his class, and it wasn't what he had expected, a support class. Just then, he realized what happened. Keidrial was already laughing at his ignorance. What she only did was ignite his thirst for power, and he fell for it. With her plan already done as well as Hyun already chosen his class, Keidrial bid her farewell and left Hyun there, dumbfounded. After the ceremony, Hyun was transported to Asrian. He was consoling himself for his support class. The system did tell him it was a hidden class, hence he was looking forward to what he could do. For starters, he checked his status. When he did so, his consoling earlier was for naught. His stats were so low he couldn't even consider them as stats. As for his skills, he has 2 starting skills. First was the Heavenly God's Protection, which allows the user to increase the defense of a selected target by 50 with a 10th of his empathy stat. Second was the Shield, which can allow a user to surround a selected target with a shield, and when hit, the enemy will be stunned for 3 seconds plus 0.2% of his empathy stat. Both skills lasted for 1 second only, and the second skill has a cooldown of 600 seconds. I say, he was in for a good start. Nevertheless, he still has the mentality of a veteran. He decided to just go about it and hit level 50 to get his ultimate. He pulled out a dagger and set his sight on a nearby slime. He threw a pebble on it and it was successfully aggroed. As the slime attacked him, he activated his first skill, giving him 50 defense plus a 10th of his empathy stat. He then countered with slashes and swipes, which dealt a measly 2 damage each. What's more, the slime was regenerating the same amount of HP. The slime jumped for a second attempt, which Hyun blocked with his second skill, Shield. With the slime stunned for 3 seconds plus 0.2% of his empathy stat, Hyun went for the kill and stabbed it almost to death. Almost, since it was killed by someone before he could even deal with the last hit. He was taken aback. Someone killed the slime instantly. Did a high-level player already griefing the newbies? However, when he looked around, he found out that there were only newbies around. The one that killed his slime was a newbie archer. This would only mean that his damage was way more trashier than he thought. This realization made him think of one thing: a partner. He was thinking of getting a partner with a good battle sense and control. Unlike those riff-raffs around. While he was on the thought, one person came to Hyun's mind. The one who was only below him, the one who ranked 2, Ain. With that, Hyun logged out of the game to try and see if he could contact Ain, but instead, he was messaged first. Inside Asra, Hyun arrived in an arena where Ain was waiting. While Hyun was greeting him, he suddenly used one of his skills and attacked Hyun. Hyun wasn't startled and responded to reason, activating his skill and neutralizing the rampaging Ain. However, Ain was far from over. After recovering for a while, he dashed back to Hyun with gusto. Hyun and Ain engaged in a heated battle inside the empty arena of Asra. Every time Ain is pushed to a corner, he becomes much more fiercer than before, eager to defeat Hyun, who has been always above him. The two continued their battle, exchanging moves as they went. After the heated duel, Hyun and Ain were sitting inside the pub, discussing about their duel. Ultimately, it ended with Ain's defeat. Before Hyun could even rile Ain up for another round of their duel, Hyun informed Ain about the new VR version of Asra, Asrian. After hearing this, Ain became mad at Hyun for leaving him behind and joining another game. It was just them in Asra, and Hyun decided to play other games. But Hyun was a master of deceit himself, who was deceived by a demon. Irony. Anyway, he told Ain that he was just checking out this new game if it was worth playing for the both of them, and he was here to tell him that they could switch games now. Hyun also said that Ain can play the mage role since it requires a Goldie control just like how Ain plays. Hearing these praises coming out from Hyun, Ain became more open at the thought of switching games. And when Ain became hooked and agreed to join him in Asrian, Hyun briefed him about the game. A few days later after their talk, Hyun was standing outside the castle of Magic Country, Levia. Hyun told Ain that he would be waiting for him outside the castle with a feather on his headband. The both of them never met outside the game before, so none of them knew each other's real appearance. Not for long, someone called out to him among the crowd. When Hyun looked at where the voice came from, he saw a tall young man. He approached him thinking he was Ain, but the man responded with a generic line for an NPC. It appears that he was wrong. When he followed the voice closely, he saw a cloaked player beside the NPC. It seems to be the real Ain. And what Hyun did not expect was that the unruly Ain from Asra was actually a young lady in real life. Hyun was quite skeptical, so he asked Ain a couple of questions regarding the werewolf skills. Ain answered everything, and Hyun was now convinced. Now that he confirmed that she was Ain, Hyun asked about her job. Ain informed him that she acquired the mage job, and what's more, it was a hidden job. Hyun wanted to check everything first before deciding what to do next, so he checked Ain's stats. Apart from her vitality, Ain's stats were more than 10 points higher than Hyun's. She also had a job called a close-range magician. As for her skills, Ain got one active skill called Flame Claws. This skill envelops the user's hand with flame and deals 5 times the user's magic power as extra damage. This skill has no cooldown but consumes 10 mana per second. This means that Ain, who got 450 mana points, could only use it for 45 seconds at most. Ain also has a title called Deceiver, which gives her an additional 15 magic powers as a reward for deceiving Keidrial. The details of the said event were omitted. Although the effect of the skill was great, it was ultimately a single target skill. Hyun proposed the mage class since it has the firepower and AoE skills in its arsenal. Who would have thought that Ain would actually choose a close combat mage instead of a glass cannon mage? This result gravely impacted Hyun's plans moving forward, hence he was pondering over possible ways to get around the situation. But no matter how hard he tries to think of a way, their combination won't make that much a difference. While Hyun was silently thinking, Ain was getting impatient and wanted to hunt mobs right away. But they were in a level 60 zone, so it was basically a suicide. While Ain was complaining, Hyun decided that he should see how good Ain was with Asrian's environment, hence he proposed a friendly duel. Hearing the word duel, Ain's eyes began to sparkle in excitement.
Her enthusiasm toward PvP was triggered.
However, she realized something: Hyun was a support class. How can he fight properly? But Hyun was still the rank 1 player of Asra, hence Ain became more fired up, and thus, the duel began. After the countdown finished, Ain immediately used her fire claws and dashed toward Hyun. Ain was aiming for the win. Meanwhile, Hyun was thinking of taking this hit to get a better understanding of Ain's damage. Thus, Hyun did not move and took the hit head-on and fell. This marked the end of their friendly duel, and the one who won was Ain. However, Ain wasn't happy with her win just now. Hyun did not even try to struggle. She was demanding a round 2 from Hyun, which he agreed. His first objective was achieved. Now he has to take a good look at how good Ain was in controlling her movements in Asrian. As the second round started, Ain did a frontal attack once again. Hyun could use his skill right there and then, but he thought it would be a waste since he could just dodge the attack. Also, while dodging, he can get a clear look at Ain's movements. Unsurprisingly, her movements were a bit lackluster compared to when they were playing Asra. That was to be expected since Ain just created a character today. Hyun's constant dodging frustrated Ain. Coupled with Hyun's taunt, Ain became more serious and focused. She dashed straight to Hyun just like what she did earlier. But when Hyun thought that it was the usual, Ain suddenly vanished. No, more like her speed suddenly increased. Ain jumped and activated her fire claws. This turn of events greatly caught Hyun off guard, hence he wasn't able to dodge it. But it doesn't mean he was back into a corner. He activated his first skill, granting him more defense stats. Then, he followed it with his second skill shield as he took a hit from Ain. This in turn stunned Ain for 3 seconds and was defeated by a support. After the duel, Ain was complaining about that insane defensive skill. Though it worked because she was caught off guard, it won't happen the second time. Both of them were experts, hence Hyun knew that it wasn't a conceit but a fact. Hyun knew that Ain was not someone who would fall for the same trick twice. On the other hand, since their duel has given Hyun a good look at their battle prowess, he has now a hunting ground in mind for them to grind. Later, when night covered the land of Asrian, Hyun and Ain were hiding somewhere not far from the gates of the Ghost Fortress, a level 60 map. Outside the fortress were level 60 mobs that were mostly undead skeletons. Just by the looks of it, Ain knew that these weren't mobs they could hunt with their low levels. But Hyun has a plan, a very shameless plan. They won't be the ones hunting these monsters but those soldiers at the top of the walls. It was a simple tactic, yet for the most part, ineffective in some RPG games. Other games would not reward a player if an NPC was involved in the hunting. This was to stop the players from exploiting this kind of shameless tactic. This was implemented way back before, and newer games might have forgotten about this tactic. This might be rediscovered later on, but they will definitely not try this earlier in the game. With the tactic clear for Ain, they then proceeded to execute it. Somewhere, a skeleton riding an undead horse was walking amongst the walking skeletons. Out of nowhere, a fireball hit its head and its eyes glowed with hatred toward the one who attacked it. The one who launched an attack toward it was no other than Ain. Ain's role was to gather the mobs by aggroing the head of these monsters, the skeleton commander. Hyun gave this crucial role to Ain since she has the most speed stats between them. When the horde of skeletons was aggroed, Ain dashed away and met up with Hyun. To lessen the burden Ain was carrying, Hyun took half of the mobs by using his shield skill on the incoming arrows. This stunned the skeleton archers and switched their aggro toward Hyun. With this, the two gave their all and ran as fast as they could toward the fortress walls. Meanwhile, the soldiers on the wall saw an unbelievable scene. The ghost commander and a horde of skeletons were fast approaching the gates. They alerted their comrades and readied to intercept the skeletons. When Hyun heard the soldiers firing, a huge bright flaming ball was shot toward them. Hyun quickly warned Ain and the both of them took cover. However, the skeletons weren't so lucky. As the huge fireballs descended on the horde, every level 60 skeletons were obliterated, including the ghost commander. When the bombardment stopped, the horde was nowhere to be found. Both Ain and Hyun sighed in relief. They were just level 1 newbies trying their luck on level 60 mobs. But their luck came in strong as rows upon rows of notifications appeared in front of them, notifying them that they leveled up. Ain has grown excited with the success of their plan. Though the experience points they earned weren't the entirety of the horde since the system distributed it according to roles, they definitely gained more than they could have imagined. With this level up, things will be safer now. And with greater confidence than before, both of them went and did the same tactic for as long as they could. And while doing the same thing over and over again, 3 days have passed since Hyun and Ain started playing Asrian. Hyun was browsing the Asrian forums for helpful information. As he was searching through the threads, he found a topic that caught his attention. It was a post about how crits work. Basically, crits have a higher chance of triggering when you attack the target's vitals like head, heart, or joints. The most important part was to focus your power on precisely hitting the spot to crit. This feat was somewhat advanced for normal players, but not for seasoned players like Ain. Considering that she chose a close combat version of a mage, she might actually pull this crit mechanic off. Later that day, Hyun logged into Asrian. He was busy going through his stats and distributing his free stat points. While he was busy, he received a notification that Ain had logged on to the game. In 3 days that both of them partied, Hyun noticed a trend in Ain's in and off times. Considering that she logged on at 5 to 6 p.m. and logged off at 3 a.m., Hyun thought Ain was a student. While he was thinking about it, Ain already found Hyun and was asking him about today's agenda. She was amazed at how Hyun came up with such a tactic in farming high-level mobs, which pushed her to level 40 and Hyun to level 42 within the span of 3 days. However, today was different. Hyun wasn't thinking of farming those skeletons again. Instead, he was thinking of going after a named monster. Named monsters were monsters that were considerably stronger than normal monsters but rewards handsomely. They might not be the only ones preparing for this kind of hunt, but also those high-ranking guilds as well. Also, named monsters have a special reward for the one who defeats them first. They call it the first kill reward. This only happens once per named monster, so it was very important. Ain understood what Hyun was talking about and she was all for it. She was even thinking of getting the first kill reward for every named monster available. But Hyun knew that was impossible, so to maximize their gains, they went after a special named monster that rewards stat bonuses. These descriptions greatly pumped Ain up as she looked forward to their next operation. But this flame of excitement died down as Hyun hadn't decided which named monster to go for. For starters, he wanted to check Ain's status since she leveled up quite recently. Ain told him that she had 70 free stat points. But Hyun already thought about it and it should be 78. When asked about it, Ain admitted that she put 8 points in strength out of habit because she was a werewolf berserker in Asran Online before. This action of Ain again deviated from Hyun's plan. He was a calculative player, even more so now that he was a support player. Nevertheless, it was already done and so Hyun just distributed Ain's free stat points accordingly. As a result, Hyun put 15 points into agility stats since Ain was a close combat type. The rest was put into her magic power since she was still a mage who needed magic power more than mobility and strength. This in turn gave Ain a huge boost in mana points, but her health points remained 200 because her vitality was still 5. This may be very low for a close combat character, but Hyun was there for a reason, so it was not something to be worried about. With this, Ain can deal over 500 damage with her fire claws. This will definitely be enough for a special named monster. So the next thing he would focus on was his support. Hyun was pondering over the matter while Ain was hurrying him up to go hunting. One was calculative, one was headstrong. This combination was definitely a match. Meanwhile, somewhere in the hunting field, 2 players were busy farming beasts. Their usernames were Helldust and Arnang. They were leisurely chatting about the recent happenings in Asrian and how glad they were that they decided to play the game full-time. Apparently, they can gain quite a sum of money through Asrian and they were fantasizing about being a ranker and racking up some bags. While they were merrily chatting, a young man came running into their way. He reminded the two about the upcoming meeting in their guild and according to him, it was about a special named monster raid. The 3 hurried over to their guild house. Also, their guild name was Gigan. Inside the guild house, a man was doing a briefing for their upcoming raid. He told them about the blue shrine within the dark forest in the middle of a clearing. When they investigated further, they found out that a hidden named boss called Leopard spawns there. The man then informed his guildmates that they would stop other guild activities and focus on this raid. This raid will be of the utmost importance for the meantime, for this will give way to their guild to shine. But fate always toys with people. As they were discussing about their planned raid of the Blue Shrine, Hyun finally decided on the special named monster he would be going after. He listed the named monsters the two of them would be going after. And funny enough, the first on the list was a specially named monster which can be found in the Blue Shrine of the Dark Forest. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more videos like this. And see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day.